All right, we're ready to call the meeting to order. It is 4:02. Are we not going to be able to see the people in the chamber? Oh, thank you. I knew the answer to that. Okay. All right. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, we make a motion to approve.
I'll move that. Did you hear me?
I did.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do I have to say opposed? Since I can't see any eyes. All right. All right. The minutes are approved for my last meeting, which was March 10th. All right. And there are no public appearances, no one to speak.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to the agenda for today. Any recommended changes or questions about the agenda? Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the agenda for today has been approved. All right. Who is all there, actually? Is everybody there today? Because I can't see you.
Terrell just joined online, it looks like. So.
Right, right. And then who's in the chamber? So Sue and Brenda and Anna and Gabriella.
And
So we're all
Gabriella.
here? Yeah. All right, wonderful. All right, so the first agenda item is the Common Council update.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this will be pretty short. I'll just remind you that the RCC is going to run an April spring waterway cleanup like they do annually, and the plan is to do April 23rd. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I can get you some more information. Really, if you email any in this, and for anyone watching, if you email anyone in the city, we can get you connected with somebody that can get you on the list. So the ARPA TID investment plan amendments were voted on back on March 22nd. And the Emerald Ash Borer affected tree replacement was passed. The tree inventory was passed. And then also, as discussed at the last tree advisory meeting, I amended the municipal tree nursery to instead be for community gravel beds and answered some questions based on the great information that Anna put together. And that also passed. All three of them were unanimous. So that is in the plan. But of course, the next
Way to
step.
go.
Yeah. The next step is always so it's not an allocation of the money. So the money is just, but it's part of it's gonna be part of the discussion. So I think it's a big win to have them listed there.
So
And
just
then-
what's the next step then? So the amendments got approved, so then the next step is another council meeting, or what is the?
So the next steps is gonna be putting it in the capital improvement plan. Any projects that are at that threshold, the 10,000 plus, and actual capital investments.
Okay.
And then, which a lot of things I think will end up being in the CIP. And then come budget time, we'll actually be allocating the money. That's my understanding.
Okay.
But it's a little bit fluid, so
So was I supposed to do a CIP for these?
if they aren't part of the plan, I will, because the CIP worksheets were already due, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk, because I can put them in as amendments.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, I already had that on the back burner, that anything that I passed that
Okay.
wasn't gonna be included in the mayor's proposed CIP, that I was gonna
Awesome.
put it as an amendment.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, so we should touch base.
Okay. Perfect.
And then, yeah, and yeah, that's all. Usually it's
That's
longer,
a
but
whole lot.
that's
Oh,
that.
that's really, yeah, thank you so much. That's wonderful. I feel like we're really moving forward as a city. That's fantastic.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I guess I'll take the next agenda item, which is Arbor Day. I just wanted to remind folks that on it's the April 23rd council meeting. We need someone here to accept the proclamation So I don't know if someone's available to do that, or, let me just make sure I got the date right.
I don't think that's
April
right. That's a Saturday.
Yeah, no, it's,
Oh, is it April 23rd? Wait, it's April 26th.
okay, yes, thank you.
It's a Tuesday.
Yes, yes,
7:30.
absolutely, yes. So is
I
that,
thought I was going to be here, but I don't think I will be. So does somebody else want to do that on the 26th?
I'm not able to make it that day as well, unfortunately.
Okay.
I want to know where Craig and Terrell are sitting because it's not windy there.
yeah,
Very still in downtown Madison today.
Yeah, looks like it.
I'm
That's
hanging out
really
in Quibby's Grove.
Oh my
great.
gosh. Craig, you look like you're in the box. What do you call those, box seats or something?
Yeah.
Looking out, or the Capitol's looking out over you. So,
Is there anyone who's interested to come to that meeting, or is it something, I mean, we don't necessarily have to have someone there, but it is nice when the mayor does a proclamation. He does it right, typically at the start of the meeting, right, shortly after 7. And so it's not typically a huge time commitment, but if folks aren't available, they're not available.
Yeah, it's pretty quick in and out. And it's 7:30.
7:30, thank you, yes.
But yeah, it'd be great to have someone there. And I don't I'm of course going to be there, but I think it's best to have someone from the committee.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, just let me know
Right.
if someone can end up coming. Let me know so we'll know to expect you. And if not, it's no pressure. Just I thought I'd throw it out there. And then just to throw out, we have like 7 Arbor Day events, which is kind of how it goes. Partly because of pandemic, we're keeping each event fairly small and neighborhood based, which I'm happy to do for one more year. But I think starting, well, as soon as we can do the bigger events, I'll be anxious to get back to that. The only one that I think we could potentially use help for, if anyone's interested, is in Chicory Meadows. We have on April 30th at 9:30 at Chicory Meadows, we're going to be doing a planting of trees and shrubs to replace invasive shrubs that were removed by a volunteer over the winter. And we do have a group of high school students coming to do that. And if anyone's interested to go and talk to them a little bit at the beginning, just to say like, hey, I volunteer for tree advisory committee, and just give them a little bit of a sense of like civic engagement, I think that would be really appropriate. If anyone has time, that would be awesome. I know a park commission member will be there, which will be nice, and some of the neighborhood volunteers will be there, just to kind of give these students a sense of, this is a part of a larger project, and if you have interest, there's a lot of civic engagement that you can do, generally speaking. So I just wanted to throw that out there to the committee. If folks are interested in coming, that would be great, just to sort of put in I don't want to say a pitch, but just sort of give the kids a sense of what it takes to, serve on a committee like this, and kind of how that translates to civic engagement. And if no one can come, it's not a big deal. I just thought I'd throw it out there. And it's probably going to be from 9:30 to 10. Apparently we're going to have like 30 high school kids there, which is kind of a lot because we probably have about 30 things to plant, so it's not going to probably take all that long. But at any rate, I just throw that out there for food for thought. And if you'd like to do it, just let me know. There's no real, no pressure or no expectation. I just thought I'd throw it out there to folks.
I would love to be there. I'll plan to
Awesome.
be there.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and also we should. I don't think there's anything precluding young people under 18 from being on a commission.
I don't know.
We
That's a
should
good-
ask and see if we should say that if any of them are interested in applying, because we have an opening
Right,
the commission,
Right.
and
we do.
it'd be great to have a young person.
It would be.
So
It absolutely would be.
yeah, and even if we had, I don't know when high school lets out, but it would be interesting to if we had to move the meeting to accommodate a.
That's fine.
Anyway, we should maybe I'll pitch it to them.
Okay. that would be
Great
great.
idea.
That would be great.
that's a great idea. All right. Okay. tree preservation ordinance update. We met with some of the city staff, including Valerie, the attorney, and Misty, the finance director, Deanna, Planning Zoning Administration, and then Scott Kendall, the Director of Parks. And Craig and Anna and I met to talk about the ordinance draft and to see specifically if there was a way that we could connect tree preservation requirements in a way that would benefit the developers to some extent. And I think the answer to that question, looking at the parkland credits to do that, was almost 100% no, maybe not quite. And I think we still wonder about that, but because it's regulated by the state, it's very specific, and there were reasons why they didn't think that could happen.
Can I just jump in for a second, Linda?
Yes,
So,
please.
so my understanding is that we can't really do a whole lot with park improvement fees. Potentially, if we can work with a developer on parkland dedication, they won't necessarily get anything extra if they dedicate land that already has trees on it that we'd like to preserve. But that's a possibility in terms of working with them because they are obligated to dedicate, a particular amount of parkland. That was one avenue that wasn't for sure no. So it wasn't like all was lost, but
Okay.
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
So would you reframe that again and about our approach on that?
Was there any discussion of stormwater utility fees?
No, so what happened, I guess, and please, Lynn and Craig, jump in if I kind of misspeak here, but basically, I think the discussion was that, developers aren't really fond of paying fees, which we all know. And so we can't, and it's really specific what we collect fees for, and we can't treat it like a piggy bank, which I think we weren't really, asking for that, but it's not particularly flexible, and we can't really give them credit for leaving trees that we wouldn't then have to buy. There's really no mechanism to do that. The only way, at least from my understanding and talking to the group that we talked to, the only way we could potentially work with a developer is if we can work with them to dedicate an area as parkland that already has some trees on it we'd like to preserve, and then just leave it. So it wasn't, so there wasn't it wasn't a very nuanced discussion, I guess, unless Craig or Linda's got some more to throw in there. That was my takeaway.
No, I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I think that whole point of what is needed, came up again, and I think we feel really strongly that all of the tree preservation can't be voluntary. It needs to be required, because they do anticipate some pushback from developers.
And I tried to say, well, can we require them to dedicate land that's got trees on it? And that didn't really get a lot of traction. So, So anyway, that was kind of that part of the discussion. So
yeah, and I think we walked away feeling really strongly again that we were moving in the right direction with the tree ordinance and embedding it in ordinances that already exist. And again, making sure that the requirements are in the plans up front before things are approved. So,
well, maybe Craig could explain this better than I can, but I do feel like the work that Linda and Craig did with Sonia in the past year was really fruitful, and I feel like the draft that the two of you have come up with is really quite good, and I think it did sort of nail where we really need to be with this. I just really hope we can get it more to the level of have to instead of optional, but I don't know. And maybe you can speak to that a little bit more specifically, Craig, but that was encouraging to me, that part of the discussion.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, my takeaway from the meeting was that what we had gone into with one of our directives was to try and figure out how we could add like teeth to the thing, like put some sort of reasoning behind why it couldn't just be ignored. And the kind of maybe demoralizing takeaway I got was that there's really not a good way of doing that. But that what we kind of have is if we include it within the upfront zoning process, then it will be an automatic part of future things, which might still be kind of ignored or sidelined, but at least it will be there. And I think that my feeling was that that's maybe the best we're going to get right now was their impression. That's of course the impression of the city staff members, so it's not necessarily the be all end all, but I think that's the where we are at in terms of including it in the ordinances is pretty good, but whether or not we can figure out any other way that we haven't already explored to kind of require this tree preservation is still a little bit up in the air, and it seems a little bit less positive to me, at least, following that meeting. So,
Well, the teeth is in the commission's willingness to approve the developer's plans, or their willingness and commitment not to approve the plans if they aren't following these guidelines. I mean, that's
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So we do have some teeth, or we should have some teeth, if they're committed to doing that, just like the 30% canopy for anything that's being planned, that has to be included up front.
Which is actually very helpful, to be honest. Like, I think I've brought that up daily since we got that.
Mhm.
Maybe not daily, but often.
And I hope you've seen positive results. I know Scott felt that there was some movement in a positive direction with that. I hope there is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's now somewhat of a, I don't want to say check off, but it's on the minds of the park commissioner. So when they see plans, they're like, well, are there enough trees on this plan to get to 30% or not?
That was a major goal when we
Yeah.
started doing this.
Right.
Major goal.
Yeah. So the fact that conversation happens, I think, is awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that's positive. I guess for me with the tree preservation ordinance, I'm not 100% sure what our next steps should be. I was wondering if maybe I should put together for our next tree advisory meeting kind of a who, what, when, where, why for the tree protection ordinance, so we can, I don't want to say shop it around, but just have because I sent a lot of documents ahead of this meeting, and I'm not sure people had the time to comb through it all. So I wonder if I could just condense it to even half a page that's really succinctly describes what we're trying to do, just so people can, in 30 seconds or whatever, digest what this is. And that might be helpful as we move forward. I don't know what people think about that.
I think we've sent around the current draft a few times. I think it might be helpful to have next steps by the next meeting, but I'm hoping that we've made a little bit of progress and those next steps have changed by then, between now and then.
Right.
I think maybe we take it more as speak now if you have strong feelings about it. Not now in the meeting, but you can read through the draft we have after this. I'd really like any feedback that people have, and then maybe we go back. I don't think that Valerie before our meeting had the chance to read the draft that we had, so get her take on it. And some of the other things, like make any last adjustments that we think are necessary, and then kind of restart the shopping around, getting everybody's opinions on, and not even opinions, just letting them know that this is what we're working towards. Maybe with not as much room for wild changes, but more tweaks and edits, because I think we could run into a place where we're just running in circles. We go to one person and they give us wildly different suggestions, and then we change it all, and then the next person suggests us back in the direction we came. And I don't think we want to run into that
Yes, I think you're right.
that
Yes.
merry-go-round forever.
Right.
So I think maybe the next step is everybody on the committee who wants to have a say should absolutely get that opportunity. And then we just go back to, okay, well, this is what we think we want to do. Let's move towards the next steps of actually doing it.
Well, and the doing it is going back to the mayor saying this is our final draft. And then the mayor will send us to Valerie to work on the nuts and bolts. Is that's my understanding.
I think that's more or less right. I mean, the mayor actually, and Gabriella, you can correct me if I'm wrong, his opinion at the end matters a lot, but in the mechanics of getting it to the council is maybe, you know, the drafting around. We can get his input again, but I think more actually Valerie's the next step to say, like, okay, from a, you know, you're the city's attorney, you're the one that they're going to look to say, is this legal? The changes we're making,
Right.
are these?
But the mayor has to appoint her to do that.
Oh, does he? That
Yeah,
is
that
a
was what
step
he-
I missed. So
Yeah. So we go back to him with this final draft, and then he looks it over. If he's fine with it, he was very supportive of it. I felt when we talked to him during the winter, and then he appoints Valerie to work with us on putting it in final form.
yeah, in that case, I mean, I think actually, I guess we should pause here. If anybody has had the chance to read through it and has comments on the current draft now, we could definitely talk about any
Yes.
specific or broader questions, comments, feedback, anything like that.
I have a question about the new section that Anna sent us.
Yeah.
Is desirable tree the umbrella thing? And okay, then I'm looking at part 4, 5, 6, and 7, where you talk about specimen trees and other kind of trees. And I just wondered if desirable tree should go in all of those places, because that covers everything, right?
Yeah, that
know
would.
what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
The second page of the,
Yeah. So yeah, right. Because I put together the guidelines.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're.
right,
Yep,
yes.
Yep. Yeah. So that's one question. Like, what are we gonna go for to preserve, right? And so I think you kind of are asking an excellent question. Like, and I kind of use desirable tree as a kind of a generic sense. But you're right. I didn't really carry it throughout. I can do that, and that's not a big deal. It's just a matter of like that gets back to well, what are we actually talking about preserving? You know.
Well, so I think our definitions right now define desirable tree. So I think any definitional questions about what we think a desirable tree is should go in that section. That's like 5450D. And then every other place where we talk about trees that we want to keep, we should just be putting in desirable trees so that they reference back to that definition. And I think the definition we have right now are heritage, specimen, commemorative, landmark, or witness trees. But I think we could expand that kind of based on your judgment, just to see like what, if we want to add more to that definition.
Right. I would suggest we consider doing that.
So,
Okay.
But I think that's a great point that we should be kind of everywhere just referencing that desirable. Since we define that term, it makes perfect sense to me.
So it sounds like, Sue, so it sounds like what we need to do then is, and I brought a lot of paperwork with me, but I did not bring that paper. But we just need to make sure we're being true to our definitions, and I'll just be more careful about that. I'll look through it again.
And it may well have been me that was not more careful about that, so don't feel bad about that. are there any other, I mean, truly any, I guess what I'm worried about with this is that I don't want this to just be the thing that, I'm pushing through and all of you are just kind of saying, oh, whatever he's doing over there is fine. I really want, if there's concerns about the methods we're using right now or the definitions, anything that I want it to be very kind of open to discussion. So
Craig, I think it looks good. I mean, I've read through it and obviously there's some technical aspects that I, looked through with the example ordinances that I think we've pulled from, because I'm not an expert in plan yet, but I
none
think
of us
it,
are.
yeah. So I mean, I think it looks good. The one thing I would look at, and not to say that this is wrong, but I do feel like that section 54-108 on the second page, that purpose is kind of the part that I think people, it's sort of the mission statement of the ordinance, and I think it'd be worthwhile to just take a look at that list: rural character, natural heritage, public health, economy, and aesthetics. Is that the list of the reasons, the purpose why? Is that comprehensive? Is that everything? That's the one thing that struck me, is that the list that is there anything that's missing?
Good
That's a
question.
good question.
Yeah.
Great question.
And I guess the order too, is that the order we want it in?
That's a good point, yeah.
Because like the first one that we list
No.
is sort of intrinsically, emotionally, like the first one that people will latch onto. So,
Right.
and not to say that rural character isn't valuable,
Yeah.
but like, is that our number one reason, purpose?
It's a good,
I think public health, economy, and aesthetics are probably the big ones.
That was my first inclination as well, is that I think we might want to adjust the order.
Yep. Yeah. I agree.
I think we can, the public health side of it probably is both the thing that ultimately is going to matter the most to citizens and probably should matter the most for us as well. So moving that around so it's at the beginning makes a lot of sense.
And I'm really glad that, I mean, economy is really important. I think
Mhm.
that's very important. to include
so
that
it
as
sounds
well.
like public health is first and economy would be second?
Mhm.
Look how
That's my opinion.
The one thing that struck me as missing, and I don't know, maybe this shouldn't be, but there is a sustainability aspect to it that's missing in that list.
Yeah,
And like, trees help with stormwater management, and we're in a climate change future, and things like that are not, and that's, we can't necessarily encapsulate everything in an ordinance. That's not what an ordinance is meant to be. And we can explain that in the context of the intro to the resolution on the referral sheet can have that type of context, and that discussion can have that. And certainly if the plan is to create a sustainability plan for the city this year. And so this can be mentioned as part of the sustainability plan. But I just thought I'd raise it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that sustainability makes a lot of sense to add. And then, yeah, I was trying to kind of brainstorm while you were talking about that, if there's anything else that I think is
Well, I mean,
largely
the only other thing I was
missing, but
thinking about is like you creating an ecosystem for birds, and I know some people don't want raccoons and squirrels hanging around, but we actually do need insects and
Well,
birds. all
Wildlife
those
habitat. I mean, basically what you're saying
Yeah.
is wildlife habitat.
So maybe that's it. Maybe that would
Yeah.
come. Yeah. Because I think, and that gets into my future thinking about kind of groves of trees, and that we may want to look at doing more with that in the future. But
And not to digress, but Linda, I think that your idea about preserving groves of trees is really excellent and gets at what we're talking about. And I think the way to do that is up front, trying to work on that parkland dedication piece and trying to get land that not just can't be built on to be dedicated as parkland, but land that's got some intrinsic value via the trees.
Right.
Try and work to get some of that land dedicated as parkland. I mean, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Do you think that would be somewhat of a carrot for developers? identifying a site,
I don't,
helping to identify a site on the property.
I don't know.
But we should keep
Ecosystem is a good
working on
word,
it.
though. I do like that, just because it implies the broader than just wildlife. 'Cause there's more
Well-
to it than that.
Well, one word that we often use when we talk about trees is ecosystem services, which includes the stormwater, which includes wildlife habitat, which includes, air quality stuff and things of that nature. And so maybe ecosystem services is kind of the word we're looking for.
Mhm.
I like that, especially if it's a technical term in the field that's used
Right.
Yeah,
frequently.
yeah.
It might be good to define it someplace. I don't know if we can do that, but
I don't know that it's worth it for a purpose statement.
okay.
Just because
True.
the defined terms should be something that's kind of important for the actual functioning of it. And
Yeah.
since it's in the purpose, I think it is very important to have the purpose right. But I also don't know that we need to
Okay.
kind of go into the background of each of the purpose things.
I like the term. Yeah.
I just went ahead
like
and
the
Googled it really
yeah.
quick, and the first thing that pops up is a definition on Google. An ecosystem service is any positive benefit that wildlife or ecosystems provide to people. The benefits can be direct or indirect, small or large.
Okay. But it
That's
would
great.
also include stormwater.
Well, sure. I mean, one of our biggest stormwater solutions are trees, I mean,
And that gets missed a lot. I wonder if we should just spell that one out.
we could list stormwater retention. It's not insignificant.
It's not. I think my preference would be towards not getting too much into the details here. All the other things are pretty broad categories right now, and getting stormwater retention feels like a subcategory of the ecosystem kind of
Services, no, you're right.
services. And that's not a strongly held belief. So if other people feel differently, I could easily be swayed.
I think the things we're talking about now feel like they are, they have all of the things we're talking about now have a higher value than the natural heritage and the rural character. But if we want to keep including those two, then yeah, I agree. We
I
don't need
feel
them.
like, just from my experience here, I feel like real character is very important to a lot of people. Like really, really important to a lot of people. It just seems to me, from my from my experience here.
I'll take your word for it. I don't think I've been around long enough to get a sense for what the general everybody values. So I think that it doesn't hurt to have it there as a kind of this is the way we want Fitchburg to feel.
Well, we want to use language that's accurate and meaningful
Right.
to people. And that sounds like it's
So would we want ecosystem services to be the first, since that covers a lot of the broad ecological benefits, or?
I would lean towards public health first, just because I think it's something more easily accessible as a purpose.
and I think economy is very appealing to people and accurate. So I don't know. Whatever if you want to.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking about in terms of ordering these is that they're all very important, but the thing that's going to grab people's attention the fastest or the most as something important to them, public health, and maybe the economy probably come first before a term that they might not instinctively know what it means.
We
But
think
again, that's-
aesthetics would be high for a lot of people.
What would?
Aesthetics,
The only thing about aesthetics that I worry about sometimes, people think it's fluff that you can do without it, or that it should be up to the individual to do it. That's the only concern I have about that. But it's absolutely true. Quality of life, that aesthetics is quality of life and living, yeah. So you think that's a term people would connect with?
that's the way it strikes me. And in terms of rural character, does it need to be rural character, or does just character, kind of the personality of the community? Or is it more the rural? Because so much of the city is urban too, really, where we're dealing with the trees is urban.
I would just say that in terms of, since this is a development tool, a lot of the development's happening in current rural areas. So in terms of how this functionally will be used, I think maintaining rural character is kind of one of the great justifications for it. And that is something, I mean, I followed the comp plan update pretty closely, and it was something that came up a lot.
Like, I would say it was the number one thing.
Yeah, it's definitely there. And I think especially for the type of Fitchburg resident that's been around for a long time, maintaining that is, so I think we should include, I think if we're gonna have character, I think it should be rural character. I think that's, and then natural heritage, that term kind of covers the rest of the,
Right.
Any other type of natural environment that's part of the city is kind of, that seems like that term covers it in my mind.
If we have those two, do we need aesthetics? Well, Terrell thinks we do. I just wondered if rural character and natural heritage is enough.
Good question. I think it's a great question, Sue.
I guess when I think of trees, just my mind, just as a person, if I'm driving around or thinking, I think I like them for appearance, so the aesthetics, and then I think of the environment. So ecosystem would fit in with that. So those are the two that kind of come to my mind when I'm just, out and about in a community and thinking of trees. So I think maybe kind of thinking of what are the first couple of words that come to a person's mind, that's just as a citizen. And then you guys were commenting in terms of developer.
I personally kind of like
Was-
keeping the word aesthetics, just because I think it does, there is not always a lot of things that we do for the city that preserve beauty.
This is
And park
true.
space and trees are part of the
True.
few ways that we
So-
think, city planning does too, in terms of like,
Yeah.
but that's a very, I think, Terrell's right, it's a tangible.
Well, and I think the purpose of a purpose statement is so that citizens can understand what this is meant to do. The developers are going to be mad or not mad based on the content of the ordinance much more than the purpose statement. Whereas it is the people of Fitchburg that we want to understand why this is the way it is. I think, it is important maybe for the developers to know why we're doing it too, but I think the goal of a purpose statement is more so that the people understand, our reasoning behind this whole thing. So
Are
I
you
think
okay
keeping-
with just adding the one more term then?
So-
That being ecosystem.
Yes.
yeah, I think, and then rearranging it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So
Go.
do we want to just read through it so it sounds like we kind of have a little bit of a consensus. Do we want to read through it just so we all kind of understand what we've changed it to? So it sounds like that economy, so it's gonna be public health, economy, rural character, and then natural heritage and aesthetics? or-
Natural heritage and aesthetics. Yeah, I think and aesthetics actually works pretty nicely because the first and the last rule kind of keeps the focus on those things. And then I don't remember Anna, if you
Ecosystem,
said in there where the ecosystems would fit, but
ecosystem
I think maybe
services.
right after economy.
Okay, so it'd be public health, economy, ecosystem services, rural character, natural heritage, and aesthetics.
I would put
Works for me.
natural heritage before rural character personally, because I think that's
Okay.
that's a broader. I like public health and economy first because those are two things that are important that people
Yeah.
don't always connect. But then I think ecosystem and natural heritage are two terms that really get at like the natural need for trees, the more the nature of it, and then rural character and aesthetics are they're kind of connected, because rural
Yes.
character is like a type of aesthetic
Exactly.
that's important to the city of Fitchburg in particular.
Perfect, yeah. So then we'd have public health,
Very good.
economy, ecosystem services, okay, so ecosystem services and then natural heritage? Okay, so public health, economy, ecosystem services, natural heritage, rural character, and
I think
aesthetics.
natural heritage first, wasn't it?
I think
Was
it'd be
natural
either
heritage
way.
before ecosystem services? Because people will know right away what natural heritage is.
Okay, we can do it, sure.
Yeah, that order doesn't make a big difference to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's public health, economy, natural heritage, ecosystem services, rural character, and aesthetics.
I just have a comment. I went out for coffee today with some friends who live in Swan Creek, and they were talking about the the new development called Lacey Woods, where there isn't a single tree on the site.
Yes,
And I said that I told them about our committee and that we're writing this ordinance.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of funny.
There'll be some, I mean, I think on the street frontage, there will be some there, because it's a requirement, it's a part of the ordinance, but it doesn't look like in the site plans there. And who knows what will actually transpire? No, well, that's the thing.
You know how long ago that was approved?
Relatively recently, I don't know. I mean, I looked at the trees for that probably last fall.
So does the park commission do the final approval on how the park will look
The council has
and
the
the
final.
planning?
Well, I think the council has the final. I mean, park commission's advisory to the council. So I guess I shouldn't really talk about it because I don't have the stuff in front of me, but, and it's relatively small, but, yeah.
The former mayor of Madison used to always say that developments were always named after the natural features they eradicated.
Yes.
It's a great line.
That had to be Paul.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, is there so I just wonder, I mean, is there like a file of all the parks that are in that current stage of, they've been approved, they're about to be developed, to take a look at, to see if all those have the 30% canopy goal in them?
Well, we use the park improvement fees to plant the trees, so it's just a matter of making that happen, or, yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of where that is. Although we do have, sometimes, we'll spend park improvement fees to do planning, and we've had plans that come through that don't have a tree on them, and there was one plan that came through, not a tree on it, and then I was instructed to go put in a windbreak, but there was no room for even a shade tree. And I'm like, well, a windbreak takes, minimum 60 feet diameter, and there's not even room here for a single tree.
Right, that's my concern, because I know that's what has come up many times, that there's a desire for trees, but it wasn't in the initial plans, and now there's not a place for them.
Yeah, and I mean, we try to catch that as it comes through, so, yeah, and that.
So getting this done will make that more systematic and
Right.
less, yeah, okay.
Right, and having the 30% canopy goal is really instrumental in saying because it's like, well, not only are there no trees, we're not even getting close to meeting that goal, so.
And I wonder if, I don't know how you would go about this, but I wonder if it'd be worthwhile for you to do a presentation to the Plan Commission.
I could.
Because they look at all of these plans in detail, and some of those plans don't really, they might get referred out to council for reference, but they're not actually, a lot of the really detailed decisions are Plan Commission only.
Yeah, that's true.
And they might just not think to ask the questions. And
That's true.
so maybe, I don't know, I can certainly suggest that, but maybe reach out to our new city planner and see if you could set up and then the mayor and Alder Randy Udell are both the elected officials on the commission. So that may be worthwhile.
I think, and one way to look at it, in a really positive way is it if it's not a done deal yet, it's still an exciting opportunity to meet the goals that have already been established by the city. It's just a ripe opportunity to do that.
And I sneak in and plant trees often. Whenever there's a budget, I'll sneak in there and plant some trees. So it's never a done deal.
Every
We-
time I ride down Fish Hatchery, I think, how did she get all those trees in that meeting? And I'm so happy about that.
Well, all I'll say is that with trees, and I always say this, it's never a one-shot deal. There's always opportunity to come in and plant more trees, and we take that opportunity often.
That's good to hear. All right, so do we have a plan moving forward then? I think,
I guess
Yeah, so if I can, oh, Anna, did you have something? You
Oh,
wanted to-
this is Gabrielle. I have one more question,
Gabrielle.
one more comment. It might be worthwhile to think about, work backwards on the timeline, think about when you want this to come to council.
Yeah.
And then think about how far in advance it needs to get referred so it can go to tree advisory and plan commission and whichever other commissions need to see it. And then with that referral date in mind, it's like a deadline for staff to get back to you. So I don't know what that date is. I don't know if it's,
I
September.
was just about to ask you what that, what
So
the
I
timeline
think
is
so
like.
plan commission meets every month, definitely. Tree advisory, obviously, we can schedule it whenever we want, so it's just a matter of making sure it gets scheduled in that month. But you might refer it out, like say at the first meeting in September to come back at the first meeting in October or the second meeting in October. I would think you would have a couple meetings in between to make sure that every committee that wants to see it
Has seen it.
gets a chance to see it. But anyway, that would be my suggestion.
Can you just say again for the slow Craigs amongst the group? In my mind, the process is we talk to the mayor. He sends us to Valerie. Valerie then, she gives us whatever feedback we want. We then reconvene and say, okay, this is maybe our ready to go. Then you do the referral, then the committee. So that's where I'm getting muddy about the process, I guess.
the sequence,
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand the
I feel like
sequence that we need to
I
follow.
actually can't completely comment on that because I'm not involved in like a lot of the process when it goes up to the consent agenda, especially for an ordinance, because there's a higher level of analysis that needs to be done on an ordinance versus kind of more of a symbolic resolution, which is most of what I've been directly involved in. So, but I guess the reason why I just think it would be helpful to have a target date in mind so that this doesn't, because I think we're close to being done, but I think if you can give that timeline to the mayor and to Valerie and to, the administrator to kind of help be like, as a goal, we want this to come to council for a vote on this day. When does it need to be referred out and what's the can we put this on a timeline to get us there?
Why don't I look into that and email you guys a potential timeline? I'll just look at different, because the committees, they meet once a month, but, Park Commission's the first Thursday, Plan Commission's on Tuesday night, I believe, and I forget which.
Tuesday nights, I think once or twice a month, depending on what they're doing.
What they're doing, yeah. So I'll just kind of take a look at the meeting schedules and kind of figure out a potential time frame and email that to everyone so you've kind of got it. And not as a, just as a suggestion, hey, this is what we can shoot for. And we can kind of go from there. But it does sound like the next step is to talk to the mayor again. If I'm.
So that's my question. That's what I was thinking, but now that we're talking about this, I'm wondering if we should make sure everybody in the Park Commission and Plan Commission we've gotten their feedback before we go back to the mayor and to Valerie. That's what I'm.
Well,
So
Craig
we have,
is,
I think,
Done that.
gotten some amount of feedback from everybody already.
yeah.
Right.
And if Gabriella disagrees, I mean, in my mind, what we want to do is make sure it's solid with Valerie and then move a, draft for minor comments and feedback and mostly just for awareness, I guess, to the different committees and then move it forward. I'm not sure we're going to have too much productive things of getting whatever feedback they want incorporated in it anyway.
No, I think you're
Which-
right, Craig, because you've been to most of these commissions at least once. if memory serves. I mean, you've done a lot of homework already.
Yeah,
seems
so
like-
that's why I think maybe just getting it to the place where we're confident in it, and then
Yep, so they're all aware of it, they know we're doing it, we've had conversations with them, so then the next step is to go back to the mayor, yeah.
Yeah.
And then to Valerie.
and then yeah, I'll talk to maybe Valerie when we talk to her and see, like, I think maybe we don't necessarily need to incorporate a whole lot of feedback at that point, but also circulating it around the same group of staff that we talk to so that they're
Yeah.
aware of what we're working on. Ultimately, they can have input but not final say in what the ordinance looks like. So we've now gotten that input, I think. So or whatever we kind of end up with after this last round should be hopefully in pretty good shape.
And one
So-
thing I'm just remembering is we probably should loop Chad Brucklin, the city administrator, in. That came up at that last meeting that we really need to do that as well. And maybe that's at the same time that you talked to the mayor or before. I'm not 100% sure.
I would go ahead and loop in him in now. And he
Okay.
can help you with the timeline and figuring out who are the remaining people that need to be met in
Okay.
the process. Yeah, I'd go ahead and loop him in now.
Okay. Because I'm pretty sure he's aware of this because it's been brought up several times.
I talk about it all the time.
See, that's
so-
right, right. So it should not be a surprise, but at the same point in time, yeah.
It might be polite, yeah.
Maybe we just clean up our draft and then send it his way and say, here's what we're working on. And if you would like to meet, we can have a meeting
Yeah.
to discuss it. I don't know that if it makes more sense to all of you, we can just go ahead and schedule a meeting first, but I don't know how much
Or we can
he's
just-
likely to have.
Yeah, email him, introduce ourselves with the email and I think that's, give him a copy of the draft.
If I'm not
Introduce
mistaken,
ourselves by email.
and if I'm not mistaken, I mean, he was nice enough to attend one of our meetings when he first started in his current role, and I believe this was on the agenda.
Yeah, he's aware. I think
Yeah.
it's just a matter of making sure that he can.
Right.
I think he's really going to help you kind of.
I
organize
agree.
this.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, great.
So we should meet with him or just email him? We should meet with him?
Well, at his preference,
I think you might be able to do it through email.
I agree.
I think you just see if I don't think you necessarily need to meet with him.
No.
But maybe he'll want to sit in on some of these meetings.
Yeah, if you would like to meet, I'm more than happy to. And I will talk to, we can meet with anybody who wants to talk about it. I
Right.
just don't want to waste his time
And if you are concerned about comments, you could potentially bring a final draft to the Park Commission as a discussion item
Yeah.
before you refer it out, because you can certainly make updates before it's referred on the consent agenda, because there is something to be said for the fact that people don't always have opinions until it's on paper.
Yes.
And then you
That's
don't
true.
necessarily want like a lot of crazy amendments once the actual ordinance comes forward for a vote. So it might, if the timeline's long enough, you probably would have time to bring it forward as a discussion item on Park Commission with the actual draft and see if there's maybe they have something that they would come up that they don't know. You could potentially do the same thing for the Plan Commission.
Yeah.
I think that's just a matter of, you kind of find out what the potential amendments are in advance is basically what you're doing. You know, 'cause
Yeah, well, and I think maybe what I'm most concerned about is if I want to talk to Valerie first to get any of her big, if there's a big item that needs to be addressed, then she might be the person who brings, more of a structural thing to it. And then after that, it should be more based on content. So,
Well, right, and everyone's going to refer back to her. You know what I mean? Like all these commissions and committees, if they have a question about it, she'll be their go-to. So it would behoove us to really get her take on it and incorporate that before we start really getting other commissions involved, it seems to me.
I like that idea.
All right, so it sounds like, Linda and Craig, are you guys willing to get it on the mayor's agenda at some point?
yeah, I'm happy to, and I don't know if your draft has any substantial changes from the last one I had.
No,
If you
not really.
can send around after this the
Yep.
reworded purpose and any of the changes in the desirable trees section, then once I get that draft, I'll go take one last pass through it. And I think Sue, did you say that you did like pretty professional
Editing?
editing?
Well, yeah, that was my job. So
Can I
would you
s-
want me to read
Yes,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think then maybe I don't know if you want to send
Yes,
to
that'd be great.
Sue next. Then
I'm gonna be
if
gone.
you don't mind, Sue, taking a fine tooth comb to it, and I'm sure there will be more changes, so we might need that a second time way later. But I just know anytime if we bring it to the mayor or the committee and somebody sees a typo, it just
Ugh,
derails the whole
yes.
conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yes, absolutely. So I will send it to you, Sue.
But I'm gonna be gone from next Thursday until May 8th.
Would you have time to do it before you go, by any chance?
Probably
Okay.
next week. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
probably.
try and, okay, before Wednesday
That'd be
then.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely be Wednesday. I'll be packing, so. Not packing, never.
We know what you meant, yeah.
Oh,
All right. Fair enough. All right, anything more on the tree preservation ordinance?
I don't think so. Great discussion.
Great work, everyone.
Yeah, I really commend everyone for their work on this. This is a really significant achievement, so thank you all.
All right, resolution R3122 approving 2022 spring tree planting plan.
So, sorry, can I just have, one thing I know I'm gonna ask you is when you define a term and then you put it in caps, whether when you refer to it in the future, you want it capped or not. So that's a style thing. It's
so
up
the
to you.
defined terms, I'm thinking if we desirable trees or whatever, wherever it is throughout the ordinance should
That
be
you want it
capitalized so
capped
that
out.
it's
Okay,
indicated that it's a defined term.
yeah, we just need to have a rule, so that would work. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Great. All right, next agenda item, Anna, is that you?
Yeah, so this is just the resolution to approve, to spend the money for the spring tree planting. You should have gotten your packet the bid tab, which is basically, I put everything together in December and January, and then I get it out, usually have it out for about 3 weeks for bids. We advertise in the paper. I make sure the word is spread far and wide. Hey, we're soliciting bids for this specific tree planting plan, and I have the maps ready, and I have all the tree planting locations and species numbers and all that stuff. So then we, of course, collect the bids. I compile them, and the bid tab is SRB Trees was the lowest bidder so the total number of trees is 159. That's what we're planting this spring. And SRB Trees was the lowest bidder at $38,796. We have worked with them in the past several times. They've always done a decent job with us. They make good in the warranty work, so I'm comfortable going with them. We had a few other bidders, Dan Larson Landscaping, who also has done a great job for us in the past. He was the second bid at $43,377. And then they kind of go up from there. So, excuse me, the second bid was Property Solutions at $41,855. We've had them in the past, and it was a disaster. So he's welcome to put a bid in. I will never recommend going with him. He was very difficult to deal with. We had to fight him tooth and nail on everything. He tried to substitute trees. He did not bring us what we asked for. He brought things with small caliper. He didn't water when he planted. He had some staff with him that did not have, for example, CDLs. So really, he was not legal in that regard in terms of people driving trucks that were overweight, who didn't have the proper licensure. We had to go after his bond to get the warranty work done. So Property Solutions, I didn't even consider him because it was such a nightmare. We would never go with him again. So anyway, so the next bid that we would consider would have been Dan Larson Landscaping, who has done a great job for us. And so he's the next one at $43,377. And then McKay's, which we've worked with in the past, they've done a great job for us. They were at $47,870.18, and the last one was Living Landscapes at $62,920. So those are the bids that came back. I was recommending to go with SRB Trees for this particular planting. It's well within budget, and I've already talked to him several times, and he will. He's got everything in order to do it. So I can't see a reason not to go with him, but I'm happy to talk it through with anyone who has any questions or any concerns or anything of that nature.
One question I have is, do you know what was the budget, the full budget for this spring planting?
So it's interesting because there's so our tree planting budget this year is, well, so a lot of this is new development, and so, and I should have that breakdown. So it varies, right? Because the new development, we get the money from the developer. And in this planting plan, there's trees going into, it's the last trees in Quarry Vista, it's Stoner Prairie, it's Fahey Fields, it's Terra Vesa, it's Renaissance on the Park. That might be all of the developments that are in it. But our public tree planting for infill, basically is what you're asking, it's around, I think it was around 30 grand. So we'll end up being able to do a fall planting as well, which will be nice.
So we just use that money for fall planting and
Yeah.
figure out what's left.
Yeah. And I will, so I had no idea. So this year, just with everything being a little bit berserk, I did not know how, and with inflation going kind of through the roof, and diesel is a huge expense, right? And moving trees around. So I had no idea how these bids were gonna come back. So I was pretty conservative about what I put on this planting plan, because if it goes over budget, then I have to cut things out. And that's more difficult than adding things in. Mm-hmm. So I've already actually added a few trees in that are close by to these trees. I was like, so I've already added a few in, but I may be able to get another plan together this spring for either him or Dan Larson to do. So we'll see, how it shakes out. But the price of everything is going up so fast. I almost feel like maybe I should try to do another spring planting if I can get it together rather than fall. I don't know. Long story longer. Yes, there's going to be budget to plant more trees than what we expect.
Yeah, with prices rising, it might be, if you can do it second spring planting, it seems like it might be worthwhile
to try and do it. Yeah, because and like I said, the biggest factor is labor and diesel, and those two things are going up pretty fast. So anyway, so that's the long story longer on tree planting on this resolution. Are there any questions or concerns or comments or anything you want to explain farther?
I don't have any more. No, that's core of what we want, right?
Yeah.
Getting them in the ground.
Yeah, right.
So I'll go ahead and move approval of resolution R3122.
I'll second it.
All approve, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, passes. All right, reports from the department, Anna, is there anything else?
So I guess big things this last month were, getting the tree bids back, getting the referral together, and another big ticket item has been getting Arbor Day together. Since we're doing 6 small plantings or smaller plantings, it's a fair bit to get together, but it's all staked, all the stock is ordered. I just need to go pick it up. Diggers Hotlines, we've cleared all the utilities, which is great. All the volunteers are lined up, so that's good. I have been sitting on the interview panel for the environmental engineer, and so there's been some really great candidates, and I do work with that person really closely, and I'm hoping with the last environmental engineer, I was working with her on sort of a tree planting, as appropriate a tree planting policy for stormwater facilities, and I'm hoping that I can pick that work up with the new person who gets selected here at some point soon. One thing I did do is just from a couple different perspectives, I just want to make sure that there's, especially with the tree tree preservation ordinance, I just want to make sure that people understand that there's a lot of credibility and expertise behind this effort. And so I did go ahead and get my board certified master arborist credential from the International Society of Arboriculture. It's a credential, only about 1,000 people in the world have it. So, and I did it partly it was a lot of work, but I did it partly just to add more credibility to that effort specifically. So if anyone says like, oh, City of Fitchburg, they don't know what they're talking about from tree perspective, it's like, well, their arborist is a board certified master arborist. So, it just adds hopefully a little bit more credibility to that effort, I would hope. Anyway, and other sort of big ticket items is just, working with Park Commission, I've been reviewing plans for different things and have been reviewing plans for the plats coming up for new developments and making sure they meet our ordinances in terms of tree planting and that sort of thing. And Park Commission has asked me to review a couple of different plans for parks in terms of canopy goals and trees and that sort of thing. So it's never a shortage of things to do. But does anyone have any questions or concerns about any of that?
No, I just wondered if your additional time has actually generated even a bigger workload than before.
That's okay. I mean, it's a little bit less work at night, which is nice, but it's kind of what needs to happen. I mean,
Right.
it's.
We're ever so appreciative of what you do and your expertise, and congratulations on your most recent certification.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
Hey, congratulations. You should have Scott send that out to
Okay.
council and everybody. Seriously.
Okay, I know.
That would be great. Tell him.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't do it, I'll tell him. So.
Okay.
So it's either you or it's me.
Because he knew I was going to take the test, and I did not think I passed. So he was like, how'd you do? And there was a lot going on here that day. We had just a lot going on at the shop, just a lot of craziness. And so I was kind of in I wasn't sure how I was going to do, but I was like, I'm not going to cancel because I'm going to go in and take it. And so I did. And I didn't think I passed, but I ended up passing. So anyway, I'll send the certificate around. But anyway, so that is what it is. But
I have one extra question too.
oh, sure.
Are you going to post the forestry assistant soon?
Oh,
Is that?
Thank you for the reminder. We hired someone. Thank you. Yes.
Yay!
So with all these interviews, I forget that, yes, we sent that out we put that together, sent that out to HR. They got some great candidates. We did interviews. I guess it's been 3 weeks ago. Cece from Rec helped me do that. We had just some really lovely folk who wanted to come and work here with us. It was really nice. And we hired who I thought was the best candidate, who has a lot of experience in planning. So I think she'll be really helpful. She's a grad student right now at UW-Madison in the planning department. She'll be super helpful with the tree preservation ordinance and a lot of the things that we are talking about. So she's starting on May 16th. So she'll be here soon. So that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. I totally just too much going on, I guess. But that was a big push to get that out and to get that hired because there's a lot of competition for good employees at this point. And I just want to make sure that we got the announcement out there and got the interviews done and got an offer before, there was any doubt that, anyone took a different offer. So yes, thank you for mentioning that. Yes. So it's really thrilling. It's really great. So.
That's great news.
So.
All right. Any other questions for Anna right now? All right. Are there any other announcements? There is one. We had talked about because Anna can't meet next month at the scheduled time, so we wondered about whether we could move our meeting to June, and that would be June 9th. Would that work for everyone?
That would be better for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That would work
I
fine.
don't have any specific reason.
No,
it
we
doesn't
can't.
work.
Shoot.
We have a Fact TV conflict, so that's a no.
Oh,
Oh,
are
shoot.
there,
Okay.
does it need to be that Thursday, or could we look at Thursday before or after? All right, Thursday before would be June 2nd.
What about Thursday, June 16? That would be good for the Fact TV calendar.
That's fine with me. Does that work for everyone else?
Okay.
Fine with me.
I'll get that meeting in on base before it gets taken.
Okay, all right.
I will have to check with the wife. We have nothing on the calendar right now, but that does not always mean there's nothing. So.
Right.
Also, just one more reminder that we do have an opening on tree advisory. So applications are being accepted. They'll be accepted until we have someone to fill.
Yeah, nice.
Cool.
I've had people inquire and I've sent them the information, so hopefully they're applying. I don't, I just send them the application and tell them how to do it, so hopefully,
I have not seen any applications come through.
okay,
They typically get forwarded to council, so I haven't. I
okay.
mean, it's possible they haven't been forwarded yet, but I haven't seen any
Huh,
recently.
okay, fair enough. Yeah,
Keep it in
maybe I will.
Okay. Any other announcements before we adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
All right. All approve, say aye, we approve.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned.